Thanks for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello everyone, welcome to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. We are live here Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. And guys, we have another Toronto-Seattle MLS Cup. Arman, I feel like we're doing this on repeat because our first MLS Cup together was Seattle-Toronto. A little nostalgia here.
Yeah, I can't believe it actually happened though again. To be honest with you, I can't believe it. I honestly, watching that, relatively boring game, I couldn't believe it.
It was boring. Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, today's show, we got plenty of good stuff. We're going to react to what we just witnessed in Atlanta. We'll get to LAFC and Toronto. Arman is going to be discussing how did Brian Smetcher just tell everybody in the media to go pound sand. Meanwhile, Jake's gonna try to explain himself on how the greatest team in a system with playoffs can be called the greatest team, but not win MLS Cup. So stay tuned for that. Now, Jake, how we doing?
We're doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm fine, but let's begin with your instant reaction to Atlanta-Toronto. Listeners at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod, send in your thoughts. We want to hear them. Are you excited for Seattle-Toronto Part 3? Because I think you're not the most excited for it.
Oh my God, I don't want to see it whatsoever. This was like, I as soon as Seattle, well, I started getting inklings that Seattle was going to win the West after they beat RSL. I'm like, God, we're going to get Seattle and Toronto again, aren't we? And then Seattle beat LAFC, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to happen. We're going to get another Seattle TFC MLS Cup final. It's going to be 0-0 through 120 minutes again.
Come on. Relax. Relax.
God, did you not watch tonight's game? That's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like that, but worse.
Okay, let's get into tonight's game. Atlanta, they shot themselves in the foot, plain and simple. And Armand, you probably had the line of the night. They ended up reverting to their old selves that we saw at the beginning of the season under Frank de Boer. They turtled. I don't know what happened.
They look stagnant at times, but something me and Jake have harped on, I think, for this entire season. They looked like they had possession, but again, with no purpose. They weren't like creating as much, right? It looked like, they were kind of stagnating, and Toronto would get possession, and Atlanta was dominating possession. But it looked like a lifeless Atlanta United team, and they looked lifeless even like during Spurs that first half. Like I think minute 16 to 30 was like really lifeless because there's nothing going on. They're jamming the middle. They're pressuring in like a weird lower block. There was no dynamic play from PT or Barco. They subbed on Tito Villalba late. No changes from Frank de Boer. And look what we get, the same results. It's a pretty poor, I thought it was pretty poor management from Atlanta not adjusting to the great game plan that Toronto had.
I mean, do you blame Atlanta for not realizing what Toronto did? Do they carry more of the blame, or do you just have to credit Toronto for an excellent game plan going in there going, we're not going to look pretty? Yeah, this is going to look ugly. Sorry, fans. Sorry, TV audience. The 300,000 that watched it, but guess what? We're gonna go play Seattle in Seattle for a chance to claim our second MLS Cup in 3 years.
I mean, for me, it's all on Frank de Boer, I think. I mean, there's so much of that game. I would look at my computer, look at my TV, depending on if I was streaming or watching it, and you would see Atlanta get the ball in the midfield and then just hit a long ball and hope to connect with Joseph Martinez. And you talk about there was no adjustments made. Frank de Boer had two unused subs at the end of the game. It's in stoppage time, and I texted you guys, and it's like he has Atlanta sitting there down a goal, in a knockout game in the 90th minute, and Frank de Boer is sitting on 2 subs. Like, that's crazy. It's inexcusable. For me, this loss totally falls on the shoulders of Frank de Boer.
I'm with Jake. I mean, look. I mean, I get like wanting to rely on your players and have them, like you're starting your game plan, your most dynamic players on the pitch. But something had to change. They weren't creating anything. The last 10 minutes, I mean, they're just shooting balls aimlessly into the box. Even Joseph looked pretty off. I mean, he missed a penalty and he wasn't that sharp as well. But look at Greg Vanney, for example, a guy who's been there, done that in MLS games. I'm not saying, De Boer isn't experienced, but according to Jose Mourinho, he's the worst Premier League manager in the history of the Premier League. Maybe we should take some stock into that because, look, a guy like Vanney went for it, and around the 70th minute, he subbed on Mullins and, switched up his formation with a little bit more attacking. Not too much, but a little bit more attacking. And credit to Greg Vanney. He took the risk when he needed to. Frank de Boer didn't, and he's, I guess he has the consequences. They lost.
No, man, Frank de Boer. I mean, it's crazy how 90 minutes can change the entire narrative for a manager, right? Frank de Boer wins this game. We're like, look, Atlanta, fine. They get to MLS Cup. They host the U.S. Open Cup final. They beat Minnesota United. They win the Champions Cup. Pretty good momentum boost there heading into the playoffs. And then suddenly they fail to Toronto, and it's Frank de Boer sucks. I mean, which is it, guys? Because obviously he deserves blame here, but it feels like this is going to get stretched on Twitter to let's sack Frank de Boer.
I don't think he'll do that. I think they'll say he just got outcoached this game.
I feel like we've gone back in time, though. I feel like it's like May.
Yeah, it is.
I know, it does.
Except it's cold.
We're having the same conversation we had in May of what the hell are they doing? They don't look very threatening. They have tons of possession, but they're just making passes for the sake of making passes. Joseph Martinez looks out of whack. Where's Pity Martinez? Where's Barco? What's going on with Atlanta? I feel like we're having the same conversation we had 5 months ago.
But how does Atlanta just suddenly turtle into this crap, right? With no direction. Yeah, Atlanta created a lot of opportunities, but towards the end of the game, did you really feel like they were ever actually threatening? Or was it just holding the ball for the sake of holding the ball, but we're not going to have any clear-cut direction with it?
No, it's like Arman said. They were just hitting balls into the box for the sake of hitting them in the box. Like there were so many times where I watched them get the ball in the midfield and just hit a long ball and hope to find Joseph Martinez on at the end of it. It was so uncreative. It was not very threatening. It was so one-dimensional. There's like nothing about Atlanta tonight that looked impressive going forward. And you can talk about how this is a pretty stunning, or if you want to use the word stunning, upset for TFC to get a result against Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta entering tonight's game 35 wins, 6 draws, 10 losses at Mercedes-Benz Stadium all time. But to me, I mean, there was nothing they did that, made Toronto look uncomfortable. Like it just looked like Atlanta just looked very just lethargic, just kind of going through the motions. Just there was nothing about Atlanta.
Isn't it dangerous in these one-off games, these tournament-style games, when a team is dominating but they just can't find the cracks and get through, and the later it goes on to the game, it starts to be an advantage for the team that's just sat back, and absorbs all this pressure?
Would we even say Atlanta dominated, though? I mean, if you're going to look at the possession stats, sure, but you didn't watch that game and go, man, Atlanta's had, 10, 15 chances to score here. It's just a matter of time before they find a breakthrough. No, I don't feel like it was ever that. I don't feel like Atlanta ever had
Jake's right.
These moments of, where they were at the cusp or at the precipice.
You want the hard
of
numbers?
A goal here.
You want the hard numbers?
I mean, I'm sure the possession numbers will say otherwise, but there was nothing about Atlanta that looked dangerous to me.
Right. 60-40 in possession in favor of Atlanta. 19 shots to the 4 Toronto had. But guys, it's one thing to have a million shots. You don't even have to dig that deep into the math and get into expected goals. You just have to look at shots on target. Toronto's 4 shots were all on target. Out of the 19 shots that Atlanta had, 5 were on target. 5. So, yeah, I guess you're right, Jake. You can look at the numbers and say, well, did Atlanta really dominate? Sure, they probably dominated the middle of the park, but when it came to the final third, it's advantage Toronto because they put the ball in the back of the net twice.
It's a make or miss league, as they say in the NBA.
Yeah. Anyway, listeners, send in your thoughts at Unc Sam Soccer Pod. How do you feel about Frank de Boer and his failure to make changes in the second half? What about Greg Vanney? How much credit does he deserve, Arman? In 2017, he took Toronto and dominated MLS. Won 3 trophies. Remember, Toronto is not part of the U.S. Open Cup system, so they went on to win the Supporters' Shield, MLS Cup, and the Canadian Cup, so a fake treble. Last year, it was ugly, but here they are again, making their 3rd MLS Cup appearance in 4 years. We have 2 teams doing that. That is incredible.
I mean, you got to give Greg Vanney a lot of credit because he set up the team for success without Omar Gonzalez and Josie Altidore. We thought, what did we say at the beginning of this playoff preview? That TFC would have no chance with that Altidore. But credit to Vanney, he adjusted the system, had Pozuelo as a little bit of a false 9, bunkered down. And even he admitted in the postgame or in the little interview with Katie Whittam, we didn't play the prettiest soccer. It was kind of ugly out there. You know what? Sometimes you got to do that to win these games. They kind of did what, the reverse of what Seattle did to them in 2016. They bunkered down. They got dirty. But when the time presented itself to go capitalize on opportunity, they did that, bringing on Nick DeLeon and Mullins, Patrick Mullins, to go up top and add a little bit of pressure, put Pozuelo on the wing. To be honest with you, that was a very smart move because if that game would have gone to extra time, Toronto would have lost. And I think it would have been as bad as what happened to DC that Toronto did. They looked gassed. They looked exhausted by the end of the game. They needed to win it, and that's what they did. And again, credit to Vanney because he did this against Atlanta United, and let's not forget, even though he watched behind a baseball net, NYCFC. But against NYCFC, they dominated. But they're not dominated, but they had spells where they dominated possession. He showed he can do it different ways, and this is a really remarkable run by Toronto FC, to be honest with you. Being the top 2 seeds on the road?
Yeah, no.
That's pretty impressive, man.
It's pretty impressive. This is what Greg Vanney said post-game, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Jake. Quote, there aren't any statistical categories we won besides passion, heart, dignity, and he continues on. But what do you take from him saying we won the passion, the heart, the dignity? What's that say about Atlanta?
First of all, I'm guessing Greg Vanney's a big fan of the one of my favorite sabermetrical stats, TW. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that or not. Do you guys know what that is?
The heart, the will?
What? No.
What?
TW.
Oh, yikes. No.
Nope, not at all.
Oh, man, this is such a great stat. It's so easy. It's like one of the best units of measurements to quantify anything ever. The will to win. I'm sure he's a great fan of the will to win.
Is that an actual stat they can measure?
No,
that?
It's not. There's this. Okay,
what's the backstory of this, Jake? Because we're clearly not following you.
Anybody? This is a Hawk Harrelson, former play-by-play guy of the Chicago White Sox. He was getting questioned about analytics in baseball, and he said, this is on MLB Network. He goes, the only analytic I care about is TW. And everybody in the panel just froze and was like, what? And he goes, the will to win. Anyway, it's
that's a pretty good sabermetric.
Over your heads.
Yes, very much over our heads.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you mocked and ridiculed me for talking about some of this stuff, Steven, similar to these kind of things about Seattle prior to the FC Dallas match, where I said they had the experience, and I thought that'd play a large part.
Well, I didn't mock you for that. When did I mock you for that?
You can play the tape. Arman, you were there. You tell me. Did he mock me for it?
Yep.
Yeah, I mocked you. You thought that Dallas would beat Seattle. That's what I mocked you for.
No. You mocked me when I said I thought that inexperience would rear its ugly head for FC Dallas, and I thought that Seattle...
how are you gonna say experience played a role tonight? Because both teams, these are the last two winners of MLS Cup.
I'm not saying it. I actually think the heart and the passion, all of that is just kind of BS. To be honest with you, I think when you get into, I think you get a knockoff, or a one-game knockout type matchup that you had tonight. Weird things happen. I already read you Atlanta's record at Mercedes-Benz Stadium all time coming into tonight's matchup. If they play that game 10 times in Atlanta, Toronto and Atlanta, how many times does Toronto get the win?
I don't know. This is just what if BS.
All I'm trying to say is you can sit here and say heart and passion and will and all that stuff. I don't know. It all sounds good on paper.
I genuinely do think that's something in sports that people are just captivated by, and you just can't explain it. No statistics going to explain the heart, the will, just the pure want to win in the course of 9 innings.
Hey, I can tell you what would have helped Atlanta's cause towards winning tonight.
What?
Maybe don't make the extra pass. Maybe take the shot. Maybe don't just hit long balls all night. Maybe make an adjustment here or there. Maybe don't end the game with 2 unused subs. I mean, you can sit here and talk. I think tonight's matchup is more about Frank de Boer getting the game all wrong than Greg Vanney's men coming out there with gusto and passion and
you think Frank de Boer is more to blame than giving credit to Greg Vanney?
You tip the hat to Greg Vanney, but I just think Frank de Boer.
All right, so give me a percentage. 60% blame on Frank de Boer, 40% tip of the hat to Greg Vanney, or is it even more?
I would say 70-30.
Arman?
I would say, are you saying 70%, Vanney, 30%?
70% of the blame, 70% of the reason why Atlanta lost is because of Frank de Boer. And the other 30% is because of what Toronto FC did.
You know what? That's pretty fair. I'd go with that too.
All right.
I'm on a roll tonight. Everyone's agreeing with me. I'm on a roll.
Yeah. There you go.
On a roll, baby.
On the roll. Jake Watroba on the roll. Listeners, at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, let's get to Seattle LAFC. We haven't reacted to that. That match happened last night. Plus more. Stay tuned for Jake's terrible hot take later on in the show.
And we're back on Uncle Sam Soccer Podcast. Guys, let's jump into Seattle's 3-1 victory over LAFC last night. A brace by Raul Ruidiaz sees the Sounders advancing to MLS Cup for the third time in 4 years. Arman, I want to start with you. How was Seattle able to beat LAFC?
Well, they came in with a plan, and I think not some teams don't come with a plan. Like the Galaxy, they didn't come with a plan. Like, come on, I think we all knew that. They kind of came in, we're gonna ride Zlatan, he's gonna score. They came with a plan to kind of force them to play on the wings, compact the middle, and not have them dissect them through a guy like Latif Blessing or Lee Win or at Tuesta, and from that, they forced him to go on the wings, and it seemed like there was one or two or three guys always on an LAFC player. Like they didn't have enough time to, think about something. They just went and, quick press. And Jake, let me ask you this. Did you guys really think LAFC had a true chance, created outside of the run of play? Like in the run of play? I don't think so.
No, I'm looking at I just pulled up the possession stats, and it's frightening how much LAFC had the ball, and you thought, wait, just thinking back on the match, did you ever think LAFC were that threatening with so much of the ball? Do you want to know the possession stat? It's wild.
I don't think they were. That's what I'm saying. Like,
but what do you think the possession stat was?
70-30.
Yeah, 70-30. And you're what? Seattle had more shots on target that LAFC did.
It's what we call meaningless possessions. Exactly what Atlanta United did tonight. All they did was, but Seattle came in with an actual plan, and Seattle actually had offensive options, so it looked a lot better as well. When you think about it, and they also played really physical and chippy as well. If they get the ball in the middle, okay, quick foul. All right, we'll run back on defense. All right, go back out wide. Try to find something through Brian Rodriguez. They couldn't do anything, guys. Maybe I was surprised that Seattle beat LAFC, but I was shocked at how they did it because they crushed them. They straight up crushed them. We're talking about right now, LAFC had nothing going forward. I couldn't believe it. Nothing? How do you have nothing going forward? Unbelievable. It was an unbelievable performance from Seattle. I think, guys, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but I think playoff-wise, it has to be a top 5 MLS playoff performance in history. Has to.
What? Wait.
Okay, wait. Hold on. What? Excuse me?
Against
the best team in MLS history?
No, stop. Stop. We're not getting into that conversation.
One of the best performances in MLS playoff history.
Oh, man.
I know Jake agrees with me right here. I know he does.
So you're saying what Seattle did last night was one of the greatest performances we've seen a team put on in the MLS playoffs?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they completely shut down the greatest regular season team, or you could argue, as Jake will, best team in MLS history to producing absolutely nothing.
Okay, I mean, I trust you. You're entitled to your opinion. I still disagree.
What? Obviously not off the top of your head, but I don't think it's that far of a reach because look, Jake, you think LAFC is the greatest team in MLS history, correct?
That is correct, but we will get to that.
Yeah. So if you shut down the greatest team,
but isn't this just a little bit of recency bias?
How?
I don't know. Go back. What about the performance of FC Dallas in 2010 in LA, beating the Galaxy to get to MLS Cup?
That's why I said top 5. I didn't say number 1.
No, but what I'm saying is, I bet you could come up if I sat down and really thought about it. I could come up with more.
I don't think you could.
What about does this performance beat Seattle's MLS Cup win against Toronto in 2016?
No, because that was a fluke. That was a fluke, and we all know it. That wasn't performance. That was just surviving until the bare end. I don't think Seattle played well at all that game. Stephen Fry, you could argue, had one of the best performances in MLS Cup history, but I don't think you can say Seattle as a whole did.
Absolutely, that's fair. Guys, Seattle just were spectacular. Anytime they were going forward, you thought, A, they were on a mission. B, as Arman said, they're on a plan. But they just looked threatening. And that's what amazes me.
Yeah, it amazes me. It amazes me too, just because some of those games late in the season for Seattle, we all watched some of them, and it's funny because in mid-August or end of August, we were all sitting on this podcast talking about how Seattle didn't really look all that good. And
but what was our confidence level? Can we?
Very low. I think it was low.
Did we really think Seattle were the proper 2 seed in the West?
I don't think there really was a proper 2 seed in the West because it was all up for grabs at one point in time.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But isn't it amazing? This team, the Seattle Sounders, have not lost at home since 2013, and suddenly you make the playoffs. Completely look at the regular season and say you pretty much won a top seed. Why? Because you could do what Seattle did. Then you don't have to travel. You're at home. You're comfortable. You got your home field advantage. You make the other teams have to travel. And the next thing you know, you just have to play 90 minutes on the road. Oh, and by the way, Seattle's hosting MLS Cup. So, wow. Right? You did not think once, well, you have Atlanta, New York, NYCFC by New York, and obviously LAFC who are on this unbelievable run. Chances that Seattle hosts MLS Cup, pretty slim. Getting to MLS Cup, just as slim, if not slimmer. But here they are hosting MLS Cup. I mean, it's amazing how MLS has suddenly flip-flopped and put so much more emphasis on the regular season.
No, I'm impressed. I'm impressed by a Seattle team. Honestly, am. You go through with what they did. I mean, look, against FC Dallas, were they impressive?
No, they got lucky.
They were not good.
FC Dallas should have won that game.
Were they impressive? Kind of, not really.
But second half against RSL is, I think, when things changed. There was something said at that halftime speech by Brian Schmetzer, that flip-flopped that game because Seattle were putrid in that first half. And that second half, they came out and looked like a completely different team. And I think that carried over into this match against LAFC. That second half against RSL gave them the confidence they needed to go down at Banc of California Stadium and pretty much kick the ass of the best team that MLS has ever seen in the regular season.
I'm telling you guys, I was genuinely kind of shocked how good of a performance that was, because that was from a guy like Schmetzer, who isn't some tactical guru. He really isn't. Comes on, puts on performance like that. Like, bravo. That was a performance. Vela, by the way, where was Carlos Vela in this big game?
Arman, we will get to that.
Where was he? What's going on?
We're going to get to that. Let's get to Brian Schmetzer's comment post-match with Sebastian Salazar last night.
I feel a lot better than Bob. I mean, why do you say that? Well, because, one team has to celebrate. We did it last year. We had Portland celebrating on our home field. So I know what Bob's going through, and it's not a good feeling. We use that as motivation for this playoff run this year. So I get it. It's winners and losers, and these playoff formats are great for the league. And, I'm just so proud of these guys out there and the people up there. The tactics were right. Their effort was right. Their mentality was right, and they deserve to win the game. How did you do it? Well, I'll let Bobby Warsaw tell me how I did it.
What makes this group special, Coach?
Well, because they never quit. We went down 1-0 to the best. And look, they had the best regular season ever. This is a tremendous team. Bob's a great coach. But we came out, went down a goal, and came back and scored 3 in their home. So you guys tell me if my team deserves some credit.
I think they do.
Well, there you have it from Brian Schmetzer with Sebastian Salazar of ESPN. A lot less awkward than Salazar's last interview about a week ago with Bob Bradley, where he was told to get lost.
But isn't that aren't those strange comments to begin with. Well, I feel better than Bob. Isn't it just strange? Doesn't that strike you as a strange comment?
He kind of comes off as a strange guy.
Man, I'm telling you, he's like your neighborhood soccer dad with the minivan who coaches. That's how I've always viewed this guy. The hair, the suit.
What?
I don't know why. He's a genius.
Right. Well,
he clearly is doing something right in life. That he just took Seattle to the 3rd MLS Cup. He's doing something right. But ever since he's been hired, I'm always like, that dude's a soccer coach? Like, if you were to put him in the middle of the financial district of whatever major city, he'd fit right in.
Arman, I want you to explain to our listeners what Schmetzer meant by the go. You can ask Bobby Warshaw how I did tonight. Can you explain to the listeners out there who might not know what that comment means?
So essentially, Warshaw came out I think the day before or during the week, and or the weekend before. I'm not sure exactly, and came out and said Seattle needs to play scared, essentially, to beat LAFC. And I think part of it's also like the MLS soccer crew. I was listening to Extra Time Radio. None of them really gave him a chance. I don't think really that many people gave him a chance. So it's kind of a shot saying, hey, look, we didn't have to play scared to beat you. Like we beat them, playing, actually decent football. That's the whole Bob. It's not. And by the way, he didn't say Bobby Warshaw. He said Bobby Warsaw, like Poland. So I don't know.
Wait, he did?
Yeah, he said Bobby Warsaw.
He did say Bobby Warsaw. Yeah.
Wow.
So like there you go. But I mean, back to Schmetzer, guys. I hate to open this can of worms, but
open it. Let's open it.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Oh, where am I going? No.
Yes, he is.
Is he the best?
Well, okay, hold on. Pump the brakes.
Is he a top 3 coach in MLS history?
Yeah.
No.
This is not.
Not
where
yet.
I thought you were going.
Not yet. Not yet.
He's close. He's on the precipice. That's the second time I've used that word tonight. He's close.
If he wins MLS Cup, where do you guys put him?
Oh,
yeah, he's top 3.
Okay.
Let's.
I got the numbers in front of me since you brought it up. Brian,
I got you.
Schmetzer, 3 MLS Cup appearances in 4 years. That's a great stat. He's got 1 to his name already. Question is, will he win a second? He's the 4th coach in league history to lead his team to 3 MLS Cup finals, or at least 3 MLS Cup finals. He's only managed 121 games. He has 59 wins, 36 losses, 46 draws. And listeners, remember, he was hired July 26, 2016, where he took a team that was pretty much at the bottom of the league to MLS Cup.
They were terrible. They were awful.
One of the greatest turnarounds in American sports history.
I will make this argument.
Okay.
Like I'm on fire right now, if you know what I'm saying. Look,
I'm more so flabbergasted that you just said that was one of the greatest turnarounds in American sports history, but that's just me.
Did I say American sports?
I did.
No, Steven did.
Oh my gosh.
What others would you put up on there?
I'm gonna stew on that one and get back to you on that because I just can't believe that.
Ask for the Astros, man. In the World Series right now. Turning off from tanking to in World Series after strategic tanking.
We're not talking baseball. Get back to your point.
Get back to it.
No, but okay. We're talking about a guy like Schmetzer. I think one thing that we have to emphasize as well is he's a Seattle guy. He coached them in the I don't know. I think he played from the old NASL. And he also coached them, I think, through the USL as well. Was an assistant. I mean, look. He even posted on Twitter after a game, hey, here's my outfit on a charter flight back to Seattle. It was him wearing an ECS shirt. Like, this guy knows. That's why everyone loves him in Seattle. And, like, that's, I think, such a key part as well. Like, he breeds the city. Like, the city is him. I remember I was reading a piece by Matt Pence of The Athletic, and it was talking about how he's gone to, like, the same, like, bar for, like, the last, like, 30 years or something like that. Or, like, 20 years, something like that. Like, this guy knows Seattle. I think it adds to his character as well. He's a Seattle guy. And from what he's doing performance-wise, he's been fantastic. Seattle's been a perennial contender with him. And you know what? They have a chance to, win, 2 in the last 3 years? That's ridiculous. I think Schmetzer should be given his due. I won't say top 3, but I'll go top 4. Is that fair?
Well, okay, but here's who's going up against. Bruce Arena, 5 MLS Cups, 3 Supporter Shields, 1 U.S. Open Cup. Second in MLS history with wins at 202. The most ever postseason wins with 26. Now, I think that postseason win statistic is now going to be skewed based on the new playoff format, because in the old days, you probably had, going through the rounds, right, the 2 legs. I wonder if you have more games, or now you have less games that you can actually play, so it'd be harder to achieve playoff wins, but the conversation for another day. Bob Bradley, 5th in MLS wins, 4th in postseason wins, 1 MLS Cup, 2 U.S. Open Cups, now Supporter Shield. Just led LAFC to the best ever season in MLS history. Then you have Sigi Schmidt with the most wins in MLS with 240 wins. Second in postseason wins with 26, and 2 MLS Cups, 5 Supporter Shields, and 2 MLS Cups, 5 U.S. Open Cups, and 3 Supporter Shield. Now, Jake, before we get to that, and listeners at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod, this is the question of the day: where does Brian Schmetzer rank among MLS's greatest coaches? And I'm going to add a little plus sign. What about Greg Vanney, guys? Because isn't he basically on the same path as his counterpart in Seattle? 3 appearances in as many years as Brian Schmetzer.
I mean, I put them tied, but kind of like a 4A, 4B in that case, because you're right. But also, let's not forget, Vanney took Toronto to the CCL finals. They lost to Chivas. Let's not forget about that.
I think, I mean, the narrative, if Toronto beats Chivas in that CONCACAF Champions League final, I mean, think of how much the narrative changes around Toronto FC and Greg Vanney. I also think playing in Canada, too, we probably overlook Greg Vanney a little bit, but I think they're probably neck and neck. And, you could probably make the argument that Schmetzer's 4 and, Vanney's 5, and pending this, MLS Cup result, maybe Vanney jumps Schmetzer or vice versa. You know what I mean?
It has to. I don't know how. I don't know how you would lose this upcoming MLS Cup and be still ranked higher than the other. This MLS Cup has a lot riding on players, clubs, and coaches' legacy. This MLS Cup, it is that important for their legacies to win it.
Schmetzer's side hasn't missed the playoffs yet, so that's a feather in the cap for him versus Greg Vanney. I mean, Vanney's side, they looked pretty bad.
Yeah, but if Greg Vanney says I have two MLS Cups, and Schmetzer only has 1, it's the ultimate middle finger.
Yep, he better get that ring fitted for his middle finger. He can flip off Schmetz that way.
Oh, Arman, you're always good for an awkward line. Anyway, do you guys want to talk LAFC?
No.
All right. We're taking a break. I guess we're taking a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little LAFC. I'm going to defend the stance that they are the greatest team ever. But question of the day. Where does Brian Schmetzer rank in I don't even know what the word is here. Where does Brian Schmetzer rank and Greg Vanney rank among MLS great coaches? Let us know at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod. Send in your questions, send in your thoughts, DM us, add us. If you got a question, we'll read it on air, we'll answer it. Anyway, we'll be back in a minute.
Alrighty, time to get controversial at Jake Watroba. Listeners, just to let you know, the other members of Uncle Sam Soccer Pod do not... Every man and woman, or whoever, that joins Uncle Sam Soccer Pod, their opinions are they own their own opinions, okay? Just put it out there. Right, Jake? You own your own
What does
opinion?
Arman think? What does Arman think? I don't know what I know.
Whoa! Why you gotta put this on me?
I just want to hear. I just want to hear your stance because I just hear Stevens all the time.
All right, so I'll break it down for you guys. You ready?
Wait. Let's Jake put the argument out there, and then you can either agree or disagree.
Jake asked for it.
Yeah, I know, but this is all Jake. I've been waiting to come at you all day.
I've had this stance for like 3 months. We've had this argument on the show a month ago. You're rearing to go at me again over something you do every time we have this argument. So, listeners, I'm going to present to you this really bad, reasoned argument for why LAFC is, regardless of the result last night, is still the greatest team in MLS history. First and foremost,
I'm going to be on mute. That way, you do not get my interruptions. I promise you that.
That would be fantastic. Hey, appreciate that. Thanks for the
I'm on mute
thanks
now.
for the heads up on that one. First and foremost, I don't believe that one game should define how great a season is or isn't in this case. I posed this question to you guys earlier about Atlanta and Toronto, and I'll pose it again because I think this argument still holds true. If you played Seattle LAFC at Banc of California Stadium 10 times, how many times does Seattle win that matchup? Arman?
I'm not sure. I'd say like
two, three, maybe
3.5.
I mean, I'd hammer the under on that, but
3.5.
I mean, Steven, how many times? What do you say? You can take yourself off mute. How many times did Seattle win that match last night? 10 times.
I'm
10
on
times.
mute, bro.
How many times did Seattle
5.
win that match? 5? I believe that was the second time LAFC had lost at home the entire season.
I don't know. I don't care. I can't. Okay, I'm stopping. Jake, move on.
I'm pegging it at 3 times max that Seattle wins that game. Okay. Here's some stats for you guys. I'm sure you know this, but we're gonna read these off anyways, just to kind of prove or illustrate how good LAFC was. Highest point total in the league's history was 72 points. 5th all time in the league's history for wins in a season with 21. Tied for first with the 1998 LA Galaxy with 85 goals scored in a season. Highest goal differential in the league's history with a 48 or a positive 48 goal differential. The next highest, to put it into context, there's a couple of contexts we can put it in here actually. Next highest was LA Galaxy in 1998 with 41, albeit they played 2 less games that year. And to illustrate just how good, their man is there, Carlos Vela set the goal scoring record with 34 goals in league play. He also set the record for goals and assists in a single season with 49. If I remember correctly, he had broken the latter record there. I believe he broke it with 10 games remaining in the season. So LAFC, if you want to sit here and say, well, they lost to a pretty good Seattle team at home, therefore they're not they're still not the best team ever in that the league has ever seen. I just think that's kind of a fallacy here. Like I said, I just don't believe that one game should be the end all be all determination of, well, is this greatness or is this just it's almost like we look at LAFC and go, well, it's just a flash in the pan. I mean, would we sit here again? If FC Dallas or New England Revolution won MLS Cup this year, will we sit here and go, oh, there's greatness. They won. they won. New England Revolution, who had 2 wins by like the end of May or whatever the hell it was. No, they're greatness. I mean, look at some other sports here. Either 2015, 2016 Golden State Warriors set the record for the best record in an NBA season, going 73-9. However, they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 7 games in the NBA Finals. Does a bad 3-game stretch define greatness? Are we sitting here and saying a 3-game losing streak at the end of a season, does that determine if they're great or not? Here, let me read off some records for the Golden State Warriors, and you tell me.
Oh, boy.
Oh, God.
Most regular season and postseason wins with 88. Most road regular season wins with 84. Most road wins in a regular season and postseason, 88, tied with the 95-96 Bulls. Most three-pointers in a single season. Most three-pointers made in a postseason. Only team in NBA history to go an entire regular season without back-to-back losses. Only team in NBA history to not lose to an opponent more than once in a single season. And Steph Curry set the NBA record for most three-pointers made in a season. I mean, that sounds like one of the greatest basketball teams ever. But hey, the Cavaliers pulled off.
Did they win?
Pulled off the unthinkable.
Wait, Jake. Remind me.
Draymond Green kicked somebody in the nuts. Who was it? Who did he kick in the crotch in Game 5, Arman?
Was it LeBron?
It might have been LeBron. He got suspended for Game 6. All right, let's go on to Stevens New England Patriots, huh? Let's cut up on a vein on this one. How about that?
Yeah, open up that womb.
Finished the 2007 season 16-0. However, they lost to the New York Giants in the Super Bowl. Was that the David Tyree play?
Yes. I still haven't watched that play. I've never watched that play in its entirety.
Oh, we'll send it to you. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks.
An Eli Manning heave in a fluky.
And the Giants were the greatest team that season.
So I believe they finished the season 9-7 and snuck into the final NFC wild.
Oh, guess what? They just to rub salt into Arman's womb. You know who they beat in the divisional round? The Dallas Cowboys, who were the 1 seed that season.
Okay, so this is Uncle Sam's soccer podcast and Uncle Sam's NFL podcast that's coming out soon.
Well, hold on.
But can you get to your point, Jake?
Yeah, hurry up. We only got another.
I'm pulling a research like 10 pages of stats, dude. Just go.
Yeah, because I'm trying to make a point here.
So
okay, we get your point. These teams are statistically blah, blah, blah off the charts. They didn't win the damn cup.
Off the charts. But because this is the problem I have when you have, especially with the NFL and now MLS, when you have these 1-game playoffs, anything can happen.
The NFL never had 2-game like aggregate score type deal. The NFL had always been you win, you move on. It's a win or go home. That's it.
That's why 9-7 New York Giants can beat 16-0 New England Patriots.
Yes. And guess what? The Patriots are not the greatest team ever. The Miami Dolphins, if you want to play the game.
Not. If you made those two teams play each other, the Patriots would run circles around them.
Sure, they would run circles. But we don't live with time machines where we could just conjure up random Super Bowl matchups from that are 40 years apart and let them play. No, the New England Patriots did not win the Super Bowl. Nobody in New England ranks that 2007 team above the other Super Bowl wins.
Hold up. What is the, okay, all right, ready for this, Arman? You ready for this?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, here we go. Steven, I want you to tell me which Premier League team in your mind had the greatest season in Premier League history.
Whichever team finished with the most points, but
Arsenal didn't lose a game and they won the title.
Well,
and I don't think they finished with the most points.
Nope. Statistically, no, you're right. And actually, that's a fair argument because I had not thought about Arsenal. I did not think about the Invincibles.
I
did
how
not.
To get you. I know how to get to your heart.
So that's a fair
shot.
shot. It's between City's unbelievable 100 mark or that Arsenal team that went unbeaten in the regular season. However, both of them ended up winning the Premier League. So we're talking about
LAFC, guys. Jeez.
Yeah, we're comparing LAFC to the New England Patriots.
Well, you make cross sport references on our Google Doc.
Yes,
so
yes, because I think that's how you judge this by. But the problem is, Jake, we're in America and we put our emphasis on the playoffs. Okay,
Sadly.
Peyton Manning owns a lot of records, but that dude has 2 Super Bowls. Guess how many Brady has? 6. It's not even a conversation. Okay.
Yeah, well, Adam Vinatieri carried Brady to 2 of those Super Bowls.
Let me just tell you guys this. Since
give
Jake
us
asked
your
my
take.
opinion
Give
like
us your
20
take.
minutes ago, let me give it. LAFC, from a style of play, is the best team we've seen in MLS history. Can we agree on that?
Best style? We're
No,
giving
it's going to be
style
Greg
points now?
Pragmatic Toronto FC in 2 weeks when they beat Seattle.
Well, I'm talking about the style, like the way they played, the finesse, the regular season, the beauty, the passion. Carlos Vela.
So we're giving
Marcus
style
Gay.
points now? Style points matter.
Yes, we guess you give style points
Because they were dominant. They were absolutely dominant.
But I'm not done, Steven. So just give me a second.
I gotta rebuttal. Just wait.
No. But as Steven said, in America, we judge based off who wins a championship, right? Who's the best team in baseball? The Yankees? I don't know.
Houston, it might have been the Astros. I believe it was the Astros this year.
Well, hopefully they lose.
Well, it looks like they're on the brink right now. They're on the brink.
Look. The best teams don't always win, and that's the thing about American sports. We love this playoff. We love it to death. We cry about it. We dream about the playoffs. Yeah, we want to make it, this and that. We got to live and die by the playoffs. You ain't winning the title. You ain't the greatest. Get out of here with that crap, Jake. That's terrible. That is terrible.
What?
Terrible.
Jake.
You're terrible.
That is terrible.
Jake, let me ask you this. Leading into this season, who had the greatest season in Major League Soccer?
I believe second point is last year's New York Red Bulls. I know you're going with this, and I have a rebuttal for it too.
Okay, so why? Why did we suddenly just forget?
Arman is saying.
Why did we just forget that the Red Bulls posted the best regular season last year? Not 4 years ago, not 7 years ago. Last season, when Atlanta won the cup, all anybody remembers is the fact that Atlanta won MLS Cup. Just like this year, nobody's going to sit there and go, wow, LAFC, you know. Everybody remembers the 2007 Patriots for losing the Super Bowl, just like everyone remembers Golden State for losing the NBA Finals. They didn't complete it. In America, if you want to be the greatest team, you have
first of all,
win your trophy.
On your Patriots take there, I think it's pretty telling that most of us remember the Patriots for losing the 2007 Super Bowl than the fact that the Giants won it. I can only tell you one thing about that Super Bowl, and that was David Tyree's catch. That's it. So I think that tells you that the Patriots were great right there. Like I said, we're talking about how the Patriots blew a 16-0 season, not look at what the Giants did, first and foremost. Second of all, I think the way LAFC went about their ways of becoming the all-time leading point getters, if you will, or finishing the season with the most points ever in an MLS season, they did it in a much more dominant way than the Red Bulls did. I mean, there was nothing. Red Bulls didn't finish with a 48 goal differential last year. They didn't have a 34 goal score. They didn't have I don't believe they had anybody come even close to a golden boot. I think there's some context here that needs to be
all right, Jake.
Be laid.
What about this?
So you're saying objectively, yeah?
Am I saying objectively? LAFC is better than the Red Bulls last year? Is that what you're asking me?
No, you're not. So you're saying, okay, so you're saying Red Bulls wouldn't be the best team in MLS history because they do the finesse and the style. You're saying like You're not saying.
I'm not just looking at it.
I see what you're saying. Okay,
I think the point is
Never mind,
is
Jake.
a
Your
good
take isn't
point.
stupid. I like it.
I think you start at a point at the total points for a season, but then there's context, there's layers to it. Look at what LAFC did this year versus what the Red Bulls did last year.
Yeah, but LAFC is not a big. LAFC failed in the big games. U.S. Open Cup failed against Portland. Against LA Galaxy, failed in regular season, beat them in the playoffs. Okay, you give them credit for that. Screw the regular season, right? It's all about what you do in the postseason. But that greatness in the regular season, what that translate? What momentum did that translate into the playoffs?
I'm just not a small sample size guy. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna sit here and look, man. You get into a 3-game season, weird things happen. I mean,
well, then you want to be the greatest. Then you figure out the 3-game season. You figure it out.
That's why I'm saying, why are we using a bad 3-game stretch from the Golden State Warriors 5 years ago? That just defines that. Well, the 96 Bulls are the best. Get out of here. That's not a good argument.
All right, listeners, we actually want to play the cut of Carlos Vela here post game. I just want to get the reaction of Arman. Jake, we had some listener questions or listener thoughts get sent our way, so we'll get to that here in the final 5 minutes of the show. But up first here is Carlos Vela post game.
You lost. Always is hard to simulate all the things. Nobody expect this end for our season, but we know in playoff is one game, 90 minutes, and if they make some better plays than you, you're out. I think in the end we have to be proud of how we done all year and learn. We have to learn. We have used 2 years like a club. We have a lot of things to improve, but I think we are in the good way. Of course, in days like that, you see everything bad, but we have to see what happened. We have to change some things and get strong and come back next year and be better. It's the only thing. It's the only way to be a good club.
Now, Arman, first, give us your reaction to that. And secondly, he says that we have to do better next year. Is that a guarantee that Carlos Vela's coming back?
Carlos Vela ain't leaving.
100%
He's
sure?
so happy. I would bet a lot of money on it. He is so happy in LA. He might go on loan to like a team in Europe. He seems to enjoy that idea. I don't see him leaving. Look, Carlos Vela has already talked about how he doesn't really care about playing for his national team. So if you don't care about playing for your national team, if you kind of just don't care about, challenging yourself to get that next level, he's 30, 31. He's trying to raise a family. He loves his life in LA. He makes plenty of money. The pressure isn't that high, but there's still a little bit of pressure going on.
Well, okay, but the pressure now of the big games suddenly comes back. Bob Bradley, that comment by or that question by Sebastian Salazar seemed to come back and haunt Bob Bradley.
Right. But it's obviously not as much as like if you go like to any team in Europe, right? He's coming back. He's coming back, and I think he's coming back for the better. And I'm really excited to see where this guy goes, because you could argue he could be one of the greatest DPs in MLS history. Just the way he plays, the finesse.
He's got to win something.
Based off ability, no.
Ability, yes.
He's already the best. He's already the best DP in MLS history.
Because let's break it down in terms of value as well. He doesn't have to leave for any international breaks. He's always the team. You get him for maximum amount of time. He's such a dynamic
Players seem to like him.
Player.
He's a very lovable guy on the pitch.
Everyone seems to like him. He's a nice guy. And you know what? He doesn't have any dreams of going anywhere, maybe bigger. Those Barcelona rumors were going on last year. But it doesn't look like he would like to do that. Maybe a loan, but not like a full-time transfer. He's going to stay and he's going to make a case to be one of the best DPs, if not the best DP in MLS history.
No, I think he's already there, Arman. I think he already is the best DP in MLS history. But let's get to some comments. We have some listener comments. We got some listener questions. Former Sounder great Steve Zakuani actually tweeted at us, which caught us off guard. So we have some former MLS players listening here, commenting to us about our question of the day: where does Brian Schmetzer rank among MLS's greatest coaches? What about Greg Vanney? And Zakuani said, has anyone ever achieved what Schmetzer has in his first 3.5 years? 3 finals appearances and 4 attempts. Could be a second ring as well. So we have that from Steve. Steve, thanks for listening. Always appreciate that. I think that's actually it. Looking at our Twitter mentions here.
We've kind of we haven't been as explicit with our questions, but we've kind of sprinkled them in, or the listener thoughts as we have talked. Guys, here, 2 minutes. MLS Cup, Seattle versus Toronto in Seattle. This is going to be an interesting matchup because these teams have to be familiar with each other, and there's a lot of history, right? So these players want to prove this is the opportunity to settle the score.
It's gonna be so exciting too because the first MLS Cup hosted by Seattle, where Seattle is actually playing. That's gonna be an amazing. I want for an open Century Link. Maybe I'll go. Who knows? I think it's gonna be I think it's actually gonna be a pretty. I don't know. It might be a bad game, man. Jake, you were talking about it, but it might be a bad game. Because if Alstor isn't healthy, it's gonna be a really bad game. Let's just say that.
What are you talking about? I thought this was going to be the game of the century. I thought you guys were super excited about
I'm
this
pumped.
matchup.
I think this game's going to be fun.
Steven's going to cry when a national anthem is played or something like that.
And they bring out Macklemore to sing it.
Oh, no. Stop.
And then Russell Wilson
Macklemore
in the background.
It'll be Macklemore and Sierra to sing the national anthem, and Russell Wilson will be standing between them.
And then Future watching from somewhere, watching his kid go out the glory. No, but look, I think it's not going to be – it could be a really bad game. It just depends on how the Altador. I'm kind of scared.
Well, we'll see. November 10th. So they got –
ABC.
They got some time off to rest, to recuperate, to get to Seattle, arrange all the travel plans for family and friends, and really focus on this game. But listeners, at Unc Sam Soccer Pod, if you're listening on the podcast – send in your thoughts as this episode gets played out. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star review. We will be back this weekend. Well, we will be back next week with more content. We will talk about the U.S. men's national team. There was some news this past week. And I'm going to leave you with this thought, guys. Talking about Lions and Sheeps. If Toronto win MLS Cup, Toronto has to pick up his $6.5 million option.
He's worth it, Chief.
He was not good tonight. There was not much Michael Bradley praise tonight. Anyway, at Arman Kafai, at Jake Watroba, at Steven Jotter, and we will talk to you next time.